it's Miriam Schulman, founder of The Inspiration Place, and welcome back to my New York studio. Well, guess what? This is video number 2 of our free 4-part video series on painting the portrait in watercolor. And if you have missed video number 1, it's right up there. You should take the time to go back and watch video number 1, because in video number 1,
I shared how it's possible for you to start painting portraits, how anyone can do it. I shared lots of paintings done by my students, people who started out just like you with no experience. Watch that and then come back here, because in this video,
I'm giving away every portrait painter's dirty little secret on how to capture a likeness, because I want you to get over your intimidation that you think you can't draw, or it always comes out looking like a cartoon, or you don't get the proportions right. We're going to break that down and make it really easy peasy. It's going to feel like cheating. Today I'm going to go over some photography tips, because if you're going to be making a portrait from a photograph, you need a great photograph. So I'm going to give you just a few tips. I'm not going to share everything I know in this one little video. It's just meant to be a short little teaser video, but I will be sharing some juicy tips. So if you want some tips on how to take better photos for your portraits, stay tuned. In this video, I'm going to share some of the strategies I've used to complete dozens of commissioned portraits, which have spread joy to all those who have collected them. So I promise that I will not waste your time today. You will definitely learn something that you can try out as you go down this journey of painting people, real people. So I wanted to give you the game plan for today. So here's how to know if you're in the right place. You're in the right place if you've always wanted to try portraits, but either you don't know where to start, in other words, you're a complete beginner, or you've tried, but your portraits came out looking a little cartoonish, or you struggle to get the proportions right. And you're also in the right place if you've drawn or painted faces, but they don't look like a real person. In other words, you do kind of the fantasy type of faces or from your imagination. That's not really the type of drawing that I'm here to teach you. I'm going to teach you some real techniques. And you've also are in the right place if you've already drawn and painted portraits in oils or pastels or something else, and now you really want to try watercolor. And you're also okay. It's okay if you've never painted in watercolor before. That's really okay. You're still in the right place. So this free mini video series is going to help you get started on the road to traditional portraiture. And I truly hope that you get a lot of value out of this free series, because I really do pride myself that my free content is a lot better than what other artists charge for. And in fact, what I'm sharing with you today, a lot of people won't either share this at all. So you can get started on the road to painting pictures of your family, or even taking commissions if that's something that you're looking to do. As you're about to discover the dirty secret that realistic portrait painters know but don't want to share with you. Because the truth is, you don't have to draw well to paint portraits. Now, I'm a lot like you. I wasn't always a professional artist. I wanted to be, but when I went through college on financial aid, that was just not encouraged by my single mother. So instead, I studied to be an engineer, and I worked on Wall Street to pay off my student loans. When I was scheduled to return from maternity leave back in 2001, 9/11 happened, and I took that as a sign from the universe not to return back to that life. Meanwhile, I had always drawn for fun, and I was really obsessed with art. So I started slowly playing with my watercolors and selling landscapes of local scenes. I desperately wanted to see if I could make art my job, so I wouldn't have to return to my job writing computer programs for financial traders. And I would have had to go back to work if I had not stumbled upon the portrait painter secret, which I am going to share with you today.
I call this the Taboo Technique, and it's actually the third P in the 5P portrait painting process. So just to review, the 5 Ps are pose, photograph, project, paint, and polish. So the third P is project. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about a brief history of tracing in portrait work. Let's first start with Vermeer, who used the beautiful window light. And he did beautiful realistic portraits that look like photographs. And there's a reason for that. Prominent Vermeer scholars, people who study the history of art, many of them are convinced that Vermeer used an early form of what is known as camera obscura to define his underpaintings. Basically a projector with mirrors and light. I mean, obviously, I don't think he used electricity. They probably used a candle or something, and it would project the image would come like a pinhole, and a pinhole image would be cast onto the mirror, and then it would be reflected onto a piece of paper, and then he would trace it. So there you go. That is Vermeer hundreds of years ago. And by the way, I don't think he thought of this himself. I'm sure other people did it too. So there is a history of this tracing in fine art. Let's talk about the next guy who actually they're sure that he traced, and that is painter Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell graced the covers of countless magazines in the course of the 20th century, and he is one of the most beloved illustrators of America. You can recognize many of his works, but virtually all of them started as photographs. Now, he would compose them himself. He would get a photographer and he'd say, I want a picture of this, and he'd get his neighbors and ordinary people, and they would pose. And he would put them together. But I have to tell you that the end result was traced. It's just so obvious. I'm going to show you the photograph and the painting, and you're going to see that, yeah, he traced a photograph. That was how he did it. I belong to the Connecticut Society of Portrait Artists. And so Connecticut, as you know, it's right outside New York, and there's a lot of famous portrait artists who belong to the society. They have their studios in Connecticut, people who have painted popes and presidents, and I've been to their studio, and by the way, they trace photographs. So let's sum up. For many artists, myself included, Norman Rockwell included, the composing of the photograph is a creative act, and it is an art in itself. Photography is an art. Luckily, as artists, we can cheat with our photographs. Our photograph does not have to be perfect because we can make changes. We can paint the way we want it to be. If one kid looks horrible in one photo but looks good in another, you can combine two photos. I've changed the background in photos. I've adjusted things. You know, we can do these magical things in painting that you can't do with photography. I mean, after all, what would be the point of making the painting if we were only just to copy the photograph exactly? Then you might as well just take a photograph and do it in Photoshop.
All right, so now that you know it's okay to trace, doesn't that put your mind at ease that you don't have to be great at drawing to paint portraits? Now, of course, there's a little bit more to it than just tracing, because if that was all there was to it, everyone would be doing it. And I want to be able to show you how to do this the right way in the full watercolor portraits class. Think about this. Wouldn't it be great if you could learn how to paint your children or grandchildren? When I learned how to paint portraits, it literally transformed my life. I didn't have to go back to work on Wall Street to do a job that felt empty and had no meaning for me. But more importantly, whenever I do a portrait, whether it's on commission or for my family, I'm creating a pace of immortality for myself and for others. I'm leaving a footprint firmly on this earth. Painting portraits has given my life meaning, and there's no greater gift than to capture the soul of another human being, and I want to share that gift with you. Maybe nothing has worked for you so far, but this is going to be different. I will break down exactly how to trace and scale your drawing, and then what changes to make so it doesn't look like a cartoon or an outline. But you can't sign up for that portrait class yet, and I still have a lot more free stuff to share with you. Let's move on to the 5 keys to composing your portrait. All right, well, let's start with key number 1, which is your camera. Now, I know I'm going to get some backlash here, but no good portrait ever started with your iPhone. You must use a real camera
with high resolution. The next key is good lighting. So this usually means something outdoors, and in my watercolor portraits class, I am going to go over more specifics of how to place your person in the lighting so you can capture the Rembrandt or Vermeer style of lighting and what time of day is best for portraits. Can't get into all the details and nitty gritty, unfortunately, in this quick series, but I just want to give you some broad brushstrokes for your success. Then it's really important to pose your subjects properly. There's a couple of fallback things I tend to do. You don't want to line up their eyes. So if you have two heads, you don't want to line them up like this. You want to line them up differently so that their eyes are on different planes. It'll lead to a much more interesting composition. So I'm going to show you a few samples of that. Now, whether you are the grandma or grandpa and taking the pictures, or you're a hired portrait artist like me taking the pictures, it is a really great idea to make the parents wait inside the house. Because if the parents come outside and you're standing here with the camera and the parents are standing 2 feet away from you, the kids are going to look at the mom and dad. They're not going to look at you. And what's mom going to do? Mom's going to say, smile, smile for Miriam. You don't want that. And the kids are going to get really uptight, and whatever the mom's going to say, it's just not going to be helpful. There's absolutely going to be nothing helpful about it. So tell the mom and dad that you've got this. They can go inside and read the paper and enjoy a cup of coffee or have a glass of wine or whatever time of day is appropriate, and just let you do your own thing. Now, the fourth component, and actually I think this is the most important component, is the smile. And it's not what you think. I know that parents and grandparents, they love the biggest possible smile, but honestly, that does not make for the best portrait. No teethy smiles. Now, this is so hard for parents to accept. I will take out my portfolio and I will show them dozens of beautiful paintings, and they love my paintings. And there'll be no teeth in any of those paintings. And I will say to them, look at these paintings. They're very subtle smiles. And I will explain to the kids, it's a Mona Lisa smile. The kids are great. And what I have to laugh at is, so I'll explain to the parents, the best painting is when it's a very subtle expression. And they'll agree with me. Oh yes, we understand. And let me just see if this is, oh yeah, there's these, no teeth. Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't making a liar out of myself. You go into any art museum, you will not find teeth in the paintings, in the famous paintings on the walls. You won't see it in Rembrandt, you won't see it in Vermeer, you won't see it in Monet, you won't see it in Picasso, you don't see it with Van Gogh, you don't see it with Da Vinci, you don't see it with anybody, okay? None of the famous artists show teethy smiles. And finally, what makes for a great portrait is if you choose the clothing. So not to have a hodgepodge of different styles of clothing. Really, my favorite portraits, the children are wearing white because it reflects light onto the face, and it gives a very classic look that doesn't become dated. Now, I know I've given you the broad strokes here about photography, and yes, there are a lot of nuances to this, but know this, once you really get these techniques down, you're going to love your new freedom. Now, before I keep going, there's something I want you to pay attention to here. Notice that I'm not teaching you something that's overly complex or anything that's tied to some fancy photography equipment or art techniques or technology. It's really about starting with an effective photograph. Now, I could talk to you a lot more about photography and posing and composition and all the tricks I use to create my portraits, but then this video would be like 10 hours long. And honestly, it's all in watercolor portraits. So if you like this kind of thing, I really do hope that you'll join us for it. Now let's do a quick review of what we learned today.
First, I shared with you the Taboo portrait painting technique, which is project, which is the number 3P in the 5P framework.
Okay, so let's finish wrapping this up. In the comments below, I want you to tell me, what is the biggest single insight that you got from this video? And more importantly, who do you want to paint first? In the next video, I'm going to answer which supplies I use for watercolor painting, and more specifically, which pigments I use for creating flesh tones in portraits. And I want you to take a moment to imagine, what would it mean to you to be able to paint your children and your grandchildren? So make sure to keep your eye peeled for the next video. And until then, start thinking about who you want to paint, because the world needs that special gift that only you have. I'm so happy that you joined me for this video. The third video will be coming out in a few days. In the next video, I will be sharing with you my complete watercolor supply list for portraits. Now, if you've already taken a watercolor class with me, you probably have most of these pigments and supplies already, but there are a few more new things that I use just for doing portraits. So I want to make sure you get your hands on the right list, so whether you choose to go take the next steps with me or you choose to do it on your own, you will be empowered with the correct supplies to paint a watercolor portrait. So that will be in the next video. I can't wait to see you then. In the meanwhile, please leave a comment or a question. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about these photography tips. If you've tried them yourself, I'd love to hear from you. Oh, and don't forget, this free series is only going to be up for a short time. I don't want to hear any complaints or belly aching that you didn't know that, because I'm telling you right now. So make sure you take time to watch the free series now, because there's plenty of beautiful information that I don't want you to miss.